And we told the Marines, we're like, guys, stay the hell out of, don't go in this room. If you break the seal on that, you're gonna be on the evidence list and potential lists. So I remember the gunny was like, we're not freaking going in there. We don't care what we're not freaking going in there. Because the Marines, people don't understand, Marines in an embassy could go anywhere they want. Anywhere. Without permission. For them to say, we're not going in there, I showed them, like, open the door when we were processing. I said, this is all freaking money and jewelry and all this other stuff. And he's like, no, I don't. No. He gave the order. We're not touching it. You're not going in. And I know some of these kids were, like, dying, just not to take it, obviously, but they wanted to see it.
Just to see it. Yeah.
They just wanted to see it. So finally, they're ready to take this money down there. We did 7-8 pickups or whatever it was. It was $20 million cash.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to this week's episode of Game of Crimes with Murph in the Morning. It's an honor to have you come back every week. You folks, you keep me motivated, you keep me going, and I know I couldn't do any of this without you. So thank you very much for continuing to come back. Feel free to tell your family, friends, and your enemies to come over and check us out as well. So just like every week, I got another great guest here. This young man here on the screen, we've known each other, 3 minutes now? No, actually, we've been knowing each other for a number of years here. But we're talking to a 29-year law enforcement professional, or is it 29 plus years?
Plus,
there you go. See, and he doesn't look that old, does he? Look at his hair. He's got hair. It's dark. I got no hair. What I got left is white. But he's now an author of a book called Infiltrate America, which we'll talk about throughout the podcast. He's a keynote speaker. He will come and speak at conferences. And he's got a couple of other interesting jobs that we're going to talk about as we go through. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please welcome Wes Tabor. Wes, welcome to Game of Crimes, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great. I'm excited to get into it.
I love having DEA folks on here, I got to tell you.
Yeah, well, we love coming on, man. I mean, you're like the holy grail when it comes to DEA, man. So,
I'm just old and people feel sorry for me. That's what it is, you know. But just like we do with every week, we have our small town police blotter, and that's where we like to give a hard time to some of the stupid criminals that are out there. I contacted Wes last night and said, would you mind reading a story? He said, absolutely no problem. But as you know, we do every week. Let me give you a disclaimer. This is a show about crime. We talk about bad people. We talk about bad people doing bad things to good people. Now, we take the show very seriously, but we're never going to miss an opportunity to have a nice chuckle at the expense of some people that really should not have been criminals. They're not doing real well at it. If you're not doing well at it, you're going to be on the show. So,
right.
If you would, Wes, go ahead. Wes lives in Florida like I do, so you're getting 2 Florida stories this week. So
yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Let me put on the old spectacles. And Gotcha. This comes out of Florida, and it's about a content creator that kind of documented her own crime. So it's kind of interesting. So, alleged thief, this is the headline, alleged thief caught by her own TikTok. And we all know what TikTok does to people, lose their minds. A content creator in Florida was arrested last November after she allegedly was caught shoplifting in her own video. Cape Coral police visited a Target location November 20th in response to an alleged theft that occurred on October 30. An unknown female entered the store and selected items listed for sale. Police said in a statement, once at the self-checkout register, the female suspect did not scan the item's barcode. Instead, scanned a false barcode with cheaper prices. Yeah, like no one's going to be able to tell. It's like you're taking the coconut sticker and you're putting a 55-inch TV on it, right? Police confirmed 16 items valued at $500 were taken before releasing security images of the suspect, seen in a tan shirt and pants. A tipster, obviously a TikToker, then reported the suspect and it appeared to be Marlena Velez, a content creator with more than 350,000 followers on TikTok. So she's broadcasting to 500,000 people, but no one's going to pay attention. A video shared on Velez's account showed the 22-year-old preparing for the alleged theft in the same outfit and glasses. I guess that was her costume. Picking out items in the store, then loading them into her vehicle, police said. She essentially incriminated herself. Officer Riley Carter tells the Express Tribune. The video has since been removed. Velez was arrested and charged with 1 count of petty theft and later released on bond. She was also arrested last year for shoplifting at a Walmart in Cape Coral after surveillance footage showed her under-ringing items at self-checkout. Velez pled no contest, completed anti-theft course, and served 6 months probation. I'm surprised she got 6 months probation, which ended a month before this incident. So she was off probation. She didn't get a violation for that. Some people will never learn. I just don't even know what to say to that.
Well, you know what, man? If she's got 350,000 followers, she's making money on TikTok. And she can afford these items, or else you don't get them, man. There's just not a lot of room for a thief out there.
It's part of her shtick.
Well, that'd be interesting to know. Right? I wonder if she picked up more followers after she was stupid enough to post it online. Yeah. Hey, guys, watch me steal. Watch me go to jail.
That'll be my research for tonight.
Idiot. You got more important things to do than that, young man.
Yes, I do. I do, actually.
All right, brother. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate you reading that, man. And now we got one that is titled Cops Say Mom Went to Awful Lengths to Please Her Beau, her boyfriend. So I never heard of this. Rent a Hitman? That's a website. It's a parody website, but its fake customer service awards and customer testimonials have convinced more than a few people to submit legitimate requests for an assassination, leading to at least 30 arrests. Now, this is a story from I had no idea. So this is back in July 23. Jasmine Paez, an 18-year-old Florida woman, fell for this ruse. But Paez's request for a hitman was more bone-chilling than most. According to the arrest warrant affidavit, Paez of Miami sought out an operative to kill her 3-year-old son. Unbelievable. Paez allegedly submitted an address and a photo of the boy and even provided a safe word for the potential killer. Put me in, coach. Thought this through, didn't she? I think that's called premeditation. The Rent a Hitman site is managed by California resident Bob Inez, whose purported 17,985 operatives actually represent police departments throughout the United States. He reached out to Miami-Dade police about Paez's alleged request. An officer posing as a hitman then contacted the teenager, 18 years old, who agreed to pay him $3,000 for the killing. Paez was arrested and charged with first-degree murder solicitation and unlawful use of a communication device. An alleged accomplice, her 18-year-old scumbag boyfriend, Gamaliel Souza, I don't know if I got that right or not, but that's what it's going to be, was arrested and is charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder as well as unlawful use of a communication device. Wow. This is what ticks me off more about this story. Both were released on a $15,000 bond. Now, that right there, releasing them on a bond when they were planning the murder of a 3-year-old kid, that just shocks the crap out of her kid. Yeah. Unbelievable. Oh, it's sick. Okay, so a search of Paez's cell phone revealed text messages in which Souza appears to have indicated that her child was the only thing that stood between them. He wrote, "The kid is the problem. I hope you see that. All I ever wanted was to free you." He also wrote, "You do it, and I'll think about coming back." What idiots.
Unbelievable.
Paez responded by claiming to have left her son in the woods to, quote, "to be eaten by bears or drown," unquote.
Jesus.
Oh, I know. It's hard to get through this.
Oh, this is probation. 100% probation. All right.
Mm-hmm. Souza allegedly asked for proof. And quote, "The fact that the website was able to prevent a violent crime and save a life, that's what makes it worthwhile to me," Inez says. "It's a really bad story, but at least the child is going to be okay. The boy is safe with relatives." There's so many sick people in this world right now, but tell me what that 3-year-old kid ever did to her or to that jackass boyfriend who says, "I might come back." If she believes that, boy, she needs some.
Just think if it hadn't been on this site and it hadn't been monitored or revealed, or what would she have found? Or she had stayed off the internet and she actually went on the street and just said to some guy, "Hey, here's the money, go do this." Actually,
it's just unbelievable. I've got a monthly Patreon channel here on Game of Crimes, subscriber channel. And one of the monthly episodes is You Can't Make This Crap Up. That one, I'm not sure I'll even put on there because it's disturbing. It's designed to be funny. Then those were designed to be funny, but as I kept reading it, that's not so funny, is it?
Yeah, I had a case when I came on DEA. I'll tell you about a little bit later. That was actually almost worse. I think worse than that.
Sickos.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's Small Town Police Blotter. So appreciate you participating there. And Wes and I were just talking before we started here about how we met. And we both have a mutual friend that you folks have heard here on the podcast himself. His name is Chris Feistel. Chris was one of the case agents that took down the Cali cartel after we took down the Medellin cartel. And he introduced me to Wes. We were able to introduce Wes to our talent agent, and he's gone on from there. So we'll just kind of leave it at that because I don't want to tell you what he's up to unless he wants to tell you. But
That's
Wes,
right.
if you would just give us an idea about where you grew up, your family dynamics, your brothers and sisters, sports, schools, things like that.
Sure. Yeah. I was born in Minnesota. I'm a kid that was born in the beginning of the 70s. I was actually born on Easter morning, one of the first kids in the Twin Cities that were born that morning. And my father was a military guy, but he had gone off to Vietnam. When he came back, he was a train wreck, like a lot of those guys. They just didn't have the ability to recognize what was going on, the PTSD. He was a door gunner, crew chief on a helicopter, and he did a lot of missions and just lost a lot of friends, had a lot of issues, right? So he's living in the bottle. He's doing this. Divorce takes the family, and I have, siblings and older and younger. And so we grew up really poor. I mean, it was to the point where at one point we were living in a bus, like out in the woods kind of thing,
Wow.
So heating up the wood for the water to go in one of those big steel tubs to take our bath if it wasn't in a pond, right? So it was a very, very different world. And my mother had met a guy that was a felon, a major felon. I mean, he had escaped from jail. He had robberies and burglaries and all this stuff. But when he went in the last time, and this is before he met my mother, they sentenced him to 5 or 6 years. And he had told me later, when they shut that door at a 5 or 6 year sentence, because before he just probation, suspended sentence is how the system is.
Like they do, yep.
And this was back in like 74, 75. Well, or 70, 71. He gets out and he's like, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do any drugs. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to go straight. And he did the rest of his life. He never touched another drop, did the right thing. And he always told me, now as my stepfather, hey, be truthful. Don't go out and scam people. Don't do anything. Work hard. And he taught me all those principles. He was a troubled guy as well. He had suffered a lot when he was young and so forth. But in the end, he was a really good guy. And he guided me. And as I grew older and I realized, what am I going to do with my life? I started saying, well, I could be a truck driver, because back in the day, we had BJ and the Bear. We had all these TV shows where the truck drivers are the heroes. You had it anyway.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, any which way but loose with the monkey or the orangutan. You remember that stuff? So I was like, I'm going to be a truck driver when I'm like 6, 7 years old. And so that kind of stuck with me. I'm drawing trucks. I'm living, I have trucks I'm playing with. I just want to be a truck driver. And it was a different era. You had McCall was the singer back then, and he had Convoy, right? Convoy and all the stuff, the songs. People really valued truck drivers back then and they still do in a sense today, but it's a little bit different feel, right? So as I'm growing up in Minnesota, we kind of moved back and forth between Maine and Minnesota because my stepfather was a carpenter and he worked for a company, and wherever the jobs were, he would go. So most of the time I was spending in Minnesota in the 80s, and I had tried my hand at Boy Scouts. And I didn't have a lot of advocacy from my parents, per se. Like, my mom was busy raising 5 kids, and it's 1983, and we'd just go disappear on our bikes all day long, and she'd be home for dinner. That was normal. I mean, that's normal for all kids. You know what I mean? Today, GPS tracker, AirTag, cell phone. We didn't have that stuff back then. You know what I mean? Yep. Yeah. So when I would show up at some of these events with Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, whatever it was, they didn't really pay attention to me. I never really got traction. I didn't feel welcomed at any of these places. I tried out for baseball, and I'd show up, and my stepdad was working his butt off constantly as a carpenter. He'd kill himself to pay for all these kids that weren't his, right? And my mom was the homemaker at home. So I was like, well, I don't know what I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. I'm gonna be a truck driver, but yeah, I'm trying to find like a male role model in a sense outside the scope of my stepdad. And then someone had told me, he said, hey, we got this thing. It's called Explorers. And the Minnesota State Patrol has this group. It's kind of part of the Boy Scouts, but it's not. Come check it out. I'm like, oh, let me go check it out. Never thought about really being a cop. I'm like, at that time, I'm like 13 years old. I show up to the substation, state police substation, and there are all these troopers in their uniform. Some aren't in their uniform. And I walked in. They're like, hey, man, come on in, brother. Whoa, hey, how you doing? Hey, come on. Yeah, you're going to be a cop? We're going to show you. And they're all energetic. They're welcoming. They bring me in. They're like, give me handcuffs to play with. I'm like, what the hell? These guys are so nice. They're so nice. They're so welcoming. They say, you want to be a cop? We'll show you how to do it. And I was just like, what an impression it made. I had gone from showing up at a Boy Scout thing where they're just kind of like looking at me like, where's your parents? Oh, they aren't here? Well, whatever. Yeah. That's literally how it was. A baseball player. Oh, you don't have a glove? I didn't have a baseball glove. I mean, I didn't have any money. You don't have a baseball? They're like, whatever. And I just end up walking home or riding my bike. And then I go to these guys, and they are just awesome. And I'm like, wow. So I changed from truck driver really fast. I'm going to be one of these guys, right? So here I'm at 13 years old. I'm going to be a cop now. And I used to ride around with this guy, Desmond Pepin was his name. He passed on a couple of years ago. And Desmond Pepin gave me and we had these uniforms, these khaki uniforms with a state police patch and Explorer and all this stuff. He's like, listen, he was a savvy old cop too. I mean, he'd, been a cop in the 60s, 70s into the 80s. And he's like, if something happens, you don't ever go to that car, you get away, you do this. And he kind of broke it down to me. With chases, he's grabbing people. We're doing all this stuff cops do, especially back in the 80s. There's no playing around back in 1984. You
weren't a lot of cell phones around.
Yeah, you mouth off to a trooper and you're going to get the boot in your butt, right? So I was like, wow, this is awesome. And he was, I remember when he would drop me off or pick me up, my stepdad, they never really met. They had this kind of like understanding, like after being a cop for so many years now, and that you could kind of like, you have a feeling with people and it's this innate kind of sense, like sixth sense. And they were friendly, but he kind of would look at him and he'd nod. And then Trooper Pepin would look at him and kind of nod and be like, yeah, I got your kid tonight. It's all good. He's like, and they never talked.
Wow.
They never talked. So, and he knew. He goes, so that's your stepdad, huh? I go, yeah. He goes, what's he do? He's a carpenter. Oh, I was like, he had some issues with the law many years ago. Totally straight now. Doesn't drink. He goes, yeah, I figured. Okay, that's fine. Never brought it up. He didn't care.
Good.
But that's how I got the interest in being a cop. So then fast forward, I'm in high school. Grades are pathetic. I'm not focused. The expectation for me to even go to college wasn't even there. In fact, one of the counselors said, go work at the potato starch factory, making starch from potatoes. Like that, and that'll be a good job for you, kid. Maybe get some benefits, free potato starch, whatever, And I was just like, and I'm like going, I don't want to work in a starch factory. So I graduate from high school. Literally, there were 50 kids in my class. I'm like 48, right? Like a D minus. This is before they had the law. You had to like graduate with like a C. I had a D minus. I shouldn't have even have graduated almost, from high school. So I remember in my yearbook, I put, I want to be great as Elliot Ness. It wasn't until years and years and years later I learned that he died broke and alcoholic. And he had destroyed his life in a sense. Of course, all the notoriety and all the fame and everything he missed when it all came out later. And I was like, that really hit me hard. And I'm like, wow. After seeing my stepfather and hearing the stories about how alcohol and all these other things ruined his life. And then my idol was at the time, what was that movie called with, what was the movie where it portrayed him? I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so big movies were out with Capone and all this stuff. And The Untouchables, right?
Yeah.
The Untouchables. So I put that in my quote in my high school yearbook. Of course, everyone's looking at it going, dude, you can't even spell untouchable, right? Like, go to the starch factory. Talk to me later, So I'm in the state of Maine at this time, and I'm in Aroostook County up by Canada, okay? Now, if you've ever been up there, that hunting and fishing is some of the best in the world. Number one, it's awesome, right? You have the peak of the Appalachian Trail. Highest point of the Appalachian Trail is Mount Katahdin, which is just south, a little bit south of Patton. And I lived north of that. At night, when there's no lights, it was just pitch dark. It was like kind of put yourself in Alaska, kind of same comparison. And I was like, but there's no jobs unless you want to work at the potato starch factory. And I said, I'm out of here. So I go to Florida. I had a girlfriend in Florida, tan, blonde. I'm like 18 years old. I'm like, going to Florida. So I get to Florida, and I'm like, no starch factory. Where am I going to go work? So I'm going to mow lawns, dig ditches, work at a Texaco station. And this is not going to work. And I've got to do something. So I go to the local community college in Florida. Community colleges are now state colleges. Right. So I go to community college, and they're like, let's see your grades. They look at my stuff, and they're like, geez, dude,
get out.
It's bad. And they gave me a test. They're like, it's even worse. You're going to, but because it's a community college, and remember, I had no money. So they gave me the Pell Grant, which actually gave me money for food and books and transport, because I had nothing, absolutely nothing. So I start going to school, but I had to take all remedial to get into the basic levels of whatever, I was taking at the time as criminal justice.
All the bonehead classes.
Totally. I deserved it 100%. I mean, I didn't focus in high school, and I realized it early. My girlfriend and her family, actually, they were educated people, and they were like, hey, you need to start making some choices here, because now you're in the big boy world, and unless you want to just keep working, digging ditches or whatever you're going to do. So I got my 2-year degree cooking. I was doing great. I graduated with honors from there. And then I started saying, well, I want to go back into police work. And in Florida, the sheriffs run everything, right? The sheriff's like the most powerful law enforcement guy in the county of every state. And you really see that when you're working. I was in Hernando County, Florida, just north of Tampa. So I said, I need to get a job. Well, initially, when I go out, here I am 18 years old, no college at this time yet, even though I was going to go and, finish my degrees and stuff. And they're all looking at me like, get out of here, kid. I mean, some of the places wouldn't even talk to me. I remember a captain in Kissimmee. He actually brought me into his office, and he said, he's like, listen, he said, no one's going to hire you. I'm just being honest. I think I showed up in like parachute pants or something with a T-shirt on. It was just ridiculous, right? So this guy, but he was great. He goes, listen, go get some college, finish up what you're doing, get some age on you, sponsor yourself through the academy, and get everything going, finish your degrees and such. So anyway, so I said, I am going to focus on further my education, getting a little age on me, and that's exactly what I did. So fast forward a few years, now I'm actually married, and I'm young, but I'm married, and I get a job at the sheriff's office. So here I am. I remember when they gave me my squad car, it was I think it was this is in 1992, but I think this was a 88. The first one I got was a Crown Vic. Yeah, it was a Crown Vic. And I remember before that, they had given me an old Dodge with the one red light on the top, that kind of spun around. And we had the 357J, J-frame until we got the Glocks and all that. So we're talking Bonnie Fife kind of stuff, right? So, but the agency was great. It actually was a really good agency. But when you're new, you're getting all the junk, give this kid this, give this kid that. And then when I finally got my Crown Vic, the big square body Crown Vic, I said, oh, this is great. So I remember went out in a tank top one afternoon, just before I started, and I wanted to drive it, kind of get a feel for it, even though I brought it back from the sheriff's office. I wanted to bring it on some of the back roads and kind of feel it out and do whatever I'm going to do. And I wasn't driving fast or anything like that. But I remember in one of the community areas, I'm driving, I'm in shorts and a tank top, right? And I go down to a cul-de-sac and I turn around and there's a guy out in his yard, like clipping bushes. And he's looking at me like, the hell? And he calls the sheriff's office. He says, some kid stole a cruiser. He stole the cruiser, and the number is 20255, whatever. And he's driving northbound on whatever. We didn't have cell phones, right? So yep. I had done the cul-de-sac, and I'm like, okay, looking at the mirrors, everything's great. I pull into my house. I park, I go in the house. My phone's blown up. I pick up the phone, the old phone with a cord and everything. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? Did someone take your car out? I said, I took it out. Where'd you go? I said, well, I was testing. I wanted to drive it just a little bit before I came to work. It's an old Crown Vic. I wanted to just feel for it. And I just took it around my neighborhood a little bit. And I said, why? Someone say I'm speeding? No. They weren't complaining we're speeding. They said some kid stole it, but the kid was you. And I was a kid. Yeah, I would look like a kid,
How old were you at that point?
I was 21.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 21 years old, man. And it wouldn't take long to kind of figure out law enforcement, how it could be very rewarding but very dangerous, because just 5-6 months in this shootout where I'm almost shot and killed with this guy that was suicidal and we got in a chase. It was one of the first videos of a chase with a camera on the dash. And you can even Google it. It's like shootout, Spring Hill chase, something. 1992. Wow. And this guy has a gun and he's shooting out the window at us. And we're chasing him. And originally they went to the house because the despondent male was allegedly in there to do a welfare check on him. Mm-hmm. And he had a Camaro, an old time Camaro with that real sloped kind of hood that kind of sloped. Yeah. And I remember they pumped, because I didn't shoot him. I was in the shooting fray where I was almost killed by my own guys. They gave me an award, best answer in a shootout. All I remember, I get out, I have my gun, and I roll out, and all of a sudden I hear, blink, 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 jump, jump, blink, and you've heard bullets before, all the metal fragments and all this stuff. My door's getting hit, dirt's popping up, and I'm like, what the hell? Shotguns are going off, machine guns, because they had the SWAT team on the perimeter when this guy had ran out of the house, jumped in his car that they just cut the tires on one side. Well, that didn't stop him from driving away. He gets in the car and he hauls ass down the road and we get in the chase. So when he finally wrecked his car, I'm right behind another car. He puts it in reverse, rams the car in back of him, almost runs over a deputy. And then all the other deputies converge and they start shooting. And I almost get killed by all these guys. Here I am, 5-6 months on the job. And so one of the roll calls a couple months later, they're like, Wes, come up here. We're giving you an award. We don't know how you didn't get hit by these bullets, but here's best answer in a shootout award. Making fun of it, as cops do, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a miracle, though.
Yeah. So, after working as a sheriff deputy, I went back to school, got my 4-year degree, graduated with honors from that criminology degree. And my buddy from SWAT, he had gone to the FBI, and he said, yeah, I don't know if you're going to like the FBI, dude. I'm kind of bored. He was at one of his first offices. They're giving him all the chum. He doesn't get the best casework at that point, because obviously they have great cases and great agents and everything else. But at that time, he's like, why don't you look at DEA? These guys seem like they have a lot of fun. I looked and I saw how many countries they're in, and I was like, man, I could go to an overseas post and live overseas and work for DEA. How does that? I started looking at, remember, this is in 1995, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a few years after I'm watching you guys take down the biggest drug trafficker in the world, right? Pablo Escobar. So I'm like, this is great. I could be the next Steve Murphy, right? Or Javier Pena.
Wait, you got to set your sights a lot higher than that.
Chris Feistel. What you got to remember, though. Remember that at that time it was actually happening. It wasn't DEA narcos. It was you guys were actually doing it, and all the Colombian police were coming up for medical treatment with their limbs blown off and all this other stuff, and they'd bring them up to DC and help take care of them. And it was a really crucial time for police work, but also in the global fight on narcotics and all these other things, because, and everyone knows this, Pablo Escobar, he wasn't just a drug dealer. He was a terrorist, and he was killing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of innocent people. And when he took down that airliner, that was the last straw, and when Reagan and the president talked, and they're like, okay, it's time we do something. That's how you got your job down there. So
kinda. Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, let's talk about you.
Yeah. So here I am, but that's the backstory on how I really got interested in. I'm seeing this stuff on TV. It's that era. I'm like, wow, I can do that. And I had been a cop, I'd been a cop a few years. So I applied. Back then, the process was really difficult. It was 2.5 years to get hired.
Yeah.
People don't understand that. They're like, you just get hired. No. This was a lengthy, very competitive process. My first interview was like 30 or 35 guys sitting in a room to go to the panel interview. And I'm like, wow. And these military officers with master's degrees and all this stuff. And here I am, potato starch factory guy. I mean,
no, you've graduated to donuts by now.
I actually did. I was making the donuts, and I was proud to make them. And I had my education set when I had learned a lot, and I was in SWAT and street crimes and all this stuff. So I had a good handle on what being a cop was at that point. By no means was I like, a savvy super street guy. Even though I'd learned a lot, I think a lot of people want to get ahead of themselves, and they say, well, I've been a cop for 5 years. Well, I'm a veteran, and I know, dude, you're just kind of starting to figure out what's happening about that point.
Plus, it changes. It changes frequently. The bad guys, they adapt. We got to change too. So anyway, go ahead.
No, 100%. So lo and behold, I go to Detective Bureau. I start working property crimes because that's you always go to property crimes. It's like getting that Dodge Diplomat with the little light on top. You're the new guy, so you're getting all the chum, and you're fighting the sharks and trying to make your bones and so forth. And I get a call one day from the recruiter in Tampa. I believe it was the guy in Tampa. It wasn't the recruiter in Miami, actually Miami proper. And he's like, hey, we got an opening. Can you come in like 10 days, 2 weeks? And I'm like, whoa, man. I was like, if I say I can't, put me in I might not get a call. Back then, they might have just taken your stuff and shredded it and been like, not happening, dude.
We offered. You turned us down.
That's right. Yep. So I said yes. I went and talked to my captain because I had been considering, I took my LSAT with my captain. We were going to go to law school together. And I told him, I said, hey, man, I got a chance to go do this DEA thing. I don't really know what it's going to be for me or what it's going to do, but I think I'm going to do it. I know we're going to go to law school together, but what do you think? He goes, dude, nothing against lawyers, but he goes, I'm going to be one, but not anyone can be a lawyer, but he's like, there's 400 million lawyers in the world or whatever. He goes, you get a chance to do this, do it. So I thought about it a little bit. I said, yep, I'm going to do it. So he went on to become a lawyer, retired from the sheriff's office, and he's a lawyer now in the Orlando area. Great guy. And I really thought about doing it, but going to DEA afforded me the opportunity to have all these experiences we're going to talk about today. And so January of 98, I actually got swore in. Bob Michelotti swore me in. I don't know if you know Bob. Yeah, he swore me in. Yeah. No camera, no Polaroid. They just brought me in. I think I was in jeans and a polo. And he's like, well, I swear. I was like, man, I'd die to have that photo today, 26-year-old kid or 27 years old at the time. And then I went to the academy, and it was freezing cold. And this is back, I was 121, BA 121, right? What were you?
53. Man. I got to tell you, man, they bring Javier and I up to talk to the back class, the basic agent trainee classes now. And last time we were up there a couple months ago, there's 2 classes in session. And so they stand up and make them introduce themselves. It was class 253, 200 classes after I graduated.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about making you feel old.
That's crazy. That's
but it's cool. It's cool, man. It's like going back to, it's like going back home to be. I mean, it sounds corny to say that, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Every time I went back, I kind of felt like that. You really are, you kind of forged to the fire going through that 5-6 months. And at the time it was the FBI Academy. Now they have, DEA Academy, right? By the time it was DEA, FBI, going up the tower, the second tower, but they wouldn't let us go in the first. That was too nice, too close to the chow hall. So we had to go to the back one.
Jefferson Hall, was that the name of it?
Yeah. Remember the sunken room with the big TV?
Yep.
You know, it was the monster big screen TV. Everyone would go there and watch TV, you know, Friends. At the time when I went, it was all Friends. So we'd have DEA and FBI guys and gals, and there'd be 300 of us crowding around this one TV trying to see it. So we go through the academy. My first duty station is Des Moines, Iowa. And Des Moines, Iowa, I thought, it's close to my family in Minnesota. It'll be great, but I'm going to be bored, right? And that couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah.
So the mid-'90s, late '90s, you know, the meth epidemic in the Midwest was off the charts. And this is just before the Mexican cartel started shipping meth in. That kind of happened while I was there. But what happened was it was all the local cooks, right? All these little labs that were producing maybe half a kilo, half a kilo. Back then it was all pounds. Everything was in pounds, right?
Yeah.
And we were working 7 days a week. I mean, I was just working so hard, man. And that went from a 2-man office when I was just before I got there to the RET team, and then another like 8 or 9 agents, and then another like 10, 15 TFOs. We had an army there. And wow. Senator Grassley was the one that kind of prompted all that. Senator Grassley, of course, you know, he's one of the longest serving senators, very powerful Iowa senator. And he said, we got a drug problem. We're going to have lots of agents here. We're going to make sure that Iowa's taken care of. And the RET team, which covered, they had 2 RET teams. I don't know if you remember the RET teams.
Yeah, the regional enforcement teams.
Yep, regional enforcement team. They had one that was East Coast, and they had one that was West Coast. And I was the one that had and they did my first wiretaps. And our wiretaps were clone pagers and hardline phones. That was our wiretaps. Man, I was wearing, the summer of 2000, I was wearing 5 pagers, clone pagers. So when a bad guy's pager go off, my pager go off with their codes and all that stuff. And then we had, you know, the hard lines. We had a couple of hard lines. And I remember the one woman, she was always in there, you know, Mom, I need toilet paper. That was like a line. At least twice a week, she's yelling to her, I need toilet paper. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But, you know, we had the RET team because Grassley said the first big cases, the first wiretaps we're going to have with the RET team are going to be in my home state. And sure as anything,
it was. Yeah.
It was. And, you know, it culminated with a bunch of arrests, a lot of search warrants and stuff like that. It was a good learning experience because I got my 13, basically helped me get my 13 out of that. You got to have so many cases, so many Title III, so many of this, so many of that to get your 13, your journeyman grade, which is a big deal.
Exactly.
It's like a $14,000 raise when you're a 28, 29-year-old guy with a family and, you know, you want to get that early 13.
It's significant. You're right.
Yeah. So I'm going through that. Then the spring of 2001, I had gone to Minnesota to family. I was driving back and my brother was driving the car. He had just gotten married. They were driving to Texas on their honeymoon. They're going to stop at all these places, whatever. And I look in the rearview mirror and I see a car bearing down on us. And I mean, it's moving, right? 100 some miles an hour. Jeez. I told my brother, hey man, we got a car on us. And we were right next to a semi truck. So we had nowhere to go. It was 2-lane coming south from Minneapolis going to Des Moines. It's like a 4-hour drive. Well, as soon as I said that, he looks up and then he sees this car and we're going to get hit. So the car behind us, we later found out, driven by a career criminal, drunk out of his mind. He slams his brakes on. When he hits the back of our car, he kind of does a pit maneuver on it. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't impact us. He kind of bumps us, but in almost like a pit maneuver. So the car spins out into the ditch sideways. It rolls like 5 times. It's a Saturn. Remember the Saturns?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm 6'5", right? And I'm stuffed in this Saturn. So here I am. I look like that Mario Nintendo game where the guy had the big apes in the car. And this thing's spinning 5 times over. And then it flipped end over end. And the first flip end over end, like hit the front of the car. It popped up. And when it came down, it was roof down. So my seatbelt's locked in. And when it hit, it crushed the car. and I had nowhere to go. So it was like, it was basically just crushed my neck. So all the facets in the back of my neck, which is that part that comes out the back, kind of like this, they all crushed. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, everything was crushed. Wow. The disc between 5 and 6 had been damaged severely, and I had a spinal cord injury. So I'm upside down in this car with the seatbelt, and my brother gets out of the car. He's like 6'1", so he was okay. If I had been a couple inches shorter, I probably would have been all right. He gets out, and he's like, dude, get out of the car, man. There's fuel leaking. There's all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, he came down in the car, and he looked, and he's like, his eyes just, he was like, oh, man. Because, like, I'm in the seat, but my neck, everything is turned backwards, like, and tilted. And it was not good. He knew this was not a good sign. You know, Gumby is not supposed to represent, in it. And I look like Gumby. So I was paralyzed from the neck down. Down. I could kind of move my left arm, and I'm looking through. So you're in a car, the front windshield's totally destroyed. There's blood everywhere. You're paralyzed. Fuel is leaking from the car. And I'm looking out through the window, this broken window with smoke. And I'm like, I cannot believe this is how I'm going to end my life. I cannot believe I'm going to die upside down in a car because I was hit by some knucklehead. And that guy didn't stop, by the way. He kind of spun out, uninjured, him and another guy. They fled, went to another bar, kept drinking. They got caught.
Of course.
I'll discuss that a little bit because of the travesty of justice that went with that, which I was very accustomed to. There is no real, rare do you find justice in our system. So I'm upside down. I told my brother, I was like, man, I can't breathe. You got to have to undo the seatbelt. Because I was like 275 pounds. I was a huge guy. And he's like, dude, I don't want to undo your seatbelt, man. You're going to fall on your head. You're already screwed up. It could kill you. I was like, dude, I'm going to die. I cannot breathe. You have to do this. And you're not responsible. So he crawls in and he hits the button. He couldn't hold me. Dude, I was like 275 pounds of dead weight, and I just fall on the roof. But I can breathe. So I'm laying there still looking through the glass in a sense, because my body had shifted a little bit. I'm like, I can't move. So, oh man, the sun is setting. And I remember thinking like, this is how I'm going to go. And one of the biggest things I kind of recall about that was this fight or flight kind of panic. Like, I was on the verge of panicking, but I would be like, you got this, you're good, everything's fine. And then the next second, I'm like, you're going to die, I'm going to die. And they're like, no, you're not going to die. Everything's fine. Just breathe. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to, and I just kept doing this, like trying to keep it together, because having not been paralyzed, it's kind of hard to kind of like envision it or kind of put yourself in that spot, but you're totally helpless. You're totally dependent on everyone else. So this thing catches fire. They don't drag me out, I'm going to die burning in a car, which I've seen, guys, and you were a cop. You've seen it too. I've seen so many people dead in cars. And one of the big things I remember, this one guy, he had been ejected from a car, and some others were in the car, and you actually hold their hands while they're dying because you're like, you got nothing. There's nothing else you can do,
Human compassion.
Yeah, and you're just like, man, this guy's dying in front of you. And I remember doing that on a couple occasions, and some teenagers and an older guy one time. And I remember the paramedics show up, trooper shows up. My brother's like, he's got 2 guns on him. I carried a HK USP 40 on my back and a 640 Smith on my leg. I always did. I always had those guns. And so he's like, why's you got guns? He's a DEA agent. He goes, oh. So the cop comes in. He doesn't really say anything to me. He just grabs my gun out of my back and grabs it off my leg, right? And I'm like, whatever. I had bigger fish to fry at that moment. Right?
Yeah.
Well, what I didn't know was the fire department had just been trained by a physician, a local physician, and that physician drove by the accident and stopped.
You're kidding.
So he comes in to the car and looks at me. And the paramedics are like, hey, doc, it's bad. He's like, don't worry, I got this. He's like, this is my scene. And the paramedics are like, it's all yours. They didn't want the liability because here I am paralyzed. Right? Doc's like, he didn't give a shit. He literally didn't. He was like, yeah, I got it. Don't worry about it. He goes, all right, so what's going on? I said, I can't feel anything, man. I'm paralyzed. He's like, I think he said something about, how'd you get out of your seatbelt? My brother, I couldn't breathe. He goes, did you feel anything when you fell? No, I don't feel shit. So he told me, he goes, you've been like this for like 6-7 minutes, whatever it was. He said, your only chance of ever walking again is if I straighten your neck. And I'm like, yeah. I was, and
you're still in that car?
Still in the car, paralyzed, like all twisted, okay. Legs all flopped. Everything's just like a sack of potatoes fell. It's just like it is, because I couldn't move. So I was like, millisecond. I'm like, yeah, do it. What am I going to do, right? Here I am, 30-year-old guy, healthy 1 minute, enjoying life. Next thing I'm paralyzed, like totally messed up. Never lost consciousness during this whole event. So he's like, all right, I'm going to do it. Okay. And he straightens my neck and I felt electricity go through me, but I couldn't move anything. I couldn't move. I go, hey man, I just felt something happen. He goes, don't move. And I'm like, I'm not. He goes, just don't move. And he held me until they got me strapped into the board, and they had to cut the whole car apart with the jaws of life, the whole thing, because it was all mangled around me. And he stayed with me, put me in there, and they brought me to the helicopter. It was like 10 guys because the median was all wet and mushy, and to pick up a guy my size just took like 10 guys, and it was a mess in the mud. It was a total disaster. Luckily, there was water on the hood where I was, but it wasn't really deep, so I wasn't drowning. That would have been right. Imagine that. You're in a couple feet of water drowning. So he brings me on the helicopter. The helicopter takes off, and you've been on helicopters, and I always remember from SWAT riding on skids or rappelling off it. When it takes off, your upper body goes up first, and then your legs follow because the skids have like a shock absorber. And so when that thing started taking off, I felt it. Then I felt the skids release, and that's when I just passed out. I was like, I actually had a vision. I was on the helo rappelling. Like I'm on the skids. I had this weird, I don't know what it was. It was like a mirage or something. I'm envisioning myself like going to rappel for some reason. I wasn't rappelling. I was a bag of potato starch, right? So they fly me to a level 1 trauma center. And the doctor that operated on me, he had done like 5 that day. Not all emergency surgeries, right. But he did it 5. So when I come in, he's like, this guy's beat. He's been there like 14 hours. And they go, 1 more. So, well, he couldn't operate right away. But what they did was give me a bunch of medicine. They ended up putting me on a bed. And the bed had these rollers. And they had to drill into my head to put these eyelets in to stretch my spine out and give me medicine to lower the swelling. And I had to do that for a couple of days. And Steve, I cannot describe. You ever see the show A Clockwork Orange or read the book?
Yeah. Okay.
There's a part where he's strapped into a chair and his eyes are forced open with brackets, and they're putting drops in his eyes, and he's just sitting there like, get me out of here. Get me out of here. That's what I felt like, man. You can't move from the neck down. I couldn't eat or drink anything. Couldn't go to the bathroom. Couldn't do anything. I just laid there on this table for days waiting for the swelling to go down. Then the surgery. After the surgery, they put me in this ICU. And they didn't just have me hooked up. They had a nurse. They had multiple nurses watching me for like a day or something. And they sat next to me staring at me. And they would take like 2-hour shifts doing this. I'm like, man, I must be really bad if they're watching me, because they had me hooked up to all this stuff. I don't know what they were doing. Like, they're like watching me breathe. And I told the one guy, I go, dude, I need to drink something, man. It's been like 5 days or 4 days or whatever. He goes, you can't drink, dude. I can give you a sponge, like a lollipop. It looked like a lollipop. It had a little bit of liquid on it. And he let me chew on that. That's all I could have. It was.
Did they have IVs in you?
Oh, yeah. But when you have an IV, your body has liquid. But my throat, my lips, my mouth, I hadn't had anything in it for days and days. So everything was just parched and raw and bloody still. And it was a mess, right? It was a mess. And I was like, man, I tell the story about, I was like, at one point, I was like, if I'm going to be like this, fast forwarding it, of course, but if I'm going to be like this and they put me in the chair with the straw and I have to like blow to get my wheelchair to move, I'm going to like make sure I'm alone by the pool and I'm going to drive off into that pool because I'm strapped into this big, heavy, wheelchair. I'm going to go in the pool and kill myself because I couldn't live like that. I couldn't move for so long. It was like, this is going to be my life. So anyway, fast forward a month or so, and I start moving a little bit. Like when I can move like this, I'm kind of flopping around. And I could stand up, but when I would walk, it was kind of like, it was uncoordinated, but I could get up. I could move a little bit. The first time I got up, I just passed out. I'd been laying down so long, my blood pressure couldn't regulate. I had to pass out. They'd sit me up, I'd pass out. Sit me up, pass out. So it was a true test of resiliency to put yourself through some kind of situation like that. I was put in that position. And there were so many times I had to say, am I going to fight or am I not going to fight? And I remember DEA was great. They TDY'd guys up on a case. And they were helping with the family. They got some plane tickets for my brother. This was like the old school DEA. It was really something. I mean, when I got out of the hospital weeks and weeks later, I go through rehab locally in Minnesota. I couldn't get in a car. They didn't want me driving anywhere. So I had to do local like rehab stuff where I didn't have to drive long periods because if I get in another wreck, I'm going to die. They were concerned. So when I finally got to go home 4 hours away, my boss at the time, his name was Mark Hine, New York guy. He's a New York guy. He was there and he's like mowing my lawn. The guy's mowing my lawn. You know what I mean? Like, great guy. DEA. My partner didn't even mow my lawn, and my boss is out there mowing my lawn. And so when I finally got to go back to work, I walk in and I'm a mess. I mean, I am a soup sandwich. I had no business going back, but I had no more leave. I was out a year, and I could walk and stuff, but I was messed up. So I walk in and he's like, so he goes, "Hey, you're looking good. Go have a seat here. I want you to work on these, researching these details on something." Give me some BS. And I'm like, "What is this?" He goes, "Just work on it." I just sat at the desk and I'm like, ugh, I was in pain, like so much pain. And I just sat at the desk and we had just gotten Firebird, it was like in the 2000s when we got Firebird, right? So
which is our computer system.
The computer system for DEA, which they're still using, a modern version of it. This was kind of like Tetris back in the day. So, with the big screens and all that stuff. And I had remembered, David Lorino?
Very well.
Oh, okay. So David Lorino was my first rack. And I remember when I had walked in to the office, he was like, how flamboyant Dave is. He's like, "Hey, kid," his feet are up, toothpick in his mouth, suspenders. And he's like, "Hey, kid, see that thing?" Like first words he says to me. I'm like, "What thing?" He goes, "That thing." He's pointing at TFO's laptop. And they were like that thick back in the day in the 90s. Right? He goes, "That's the future, kid. That's the future right there."
That's Lorino, man. Yeah. We were in Miami together. He was like that back then.
So I'm like, oh, God, what have I gotten myself into, Because it was almost, at that time, DEA was stepping back in technology a little bit. I came from sheriff's office. We had 800 megahertz. I go from that to UHF, VHF, and radios and all this stuff. But anyway, so I get back on the job. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I come back. They didn't have at that time the medical clearance they have now where you have to like physically go and do a process and all this stuff. They didn't have that. And I remember that they did it after I came back on because I'm known for something with that. And that was the reason why they kind of created some of those processes because the doctor signed me to come back. The DEA doctor's like, "No freaking way. There's no way." And I was like, he's right. I'm like, I shouldn't be coming back. I am horribly hurt and I'm not recovered. But my doctor was like, "You're good." And he's like, can you just kind of hang out in the office a little bit where they take care of you? I said, yeah. They'll, yeah. So DEA kicked it back and said, no. So I brought that to my neurosurgeon, and he's like, doctors, right? He's like, who the hell is this DEA doctor? I went to Yale. I went to here. This guy was like a top-notch surgeon, right? He's like, if I say you can go to work, you can go to work. And he took that thing and augmented it and wrote it even more and sent it back up, basically telling the DEA doctor, like, dude, who the hell are you? He can go back. And they let me come back. But the DEA doc, I have to say, he was absolutely correct. I had no business. So I go back, and they kept me out of harm's way. I remember like 8 months back, I had already done all my wiretaps and all that for my early 13 when I got hurt. So that was good. I did a couple other cases, whatever, but nothing. I had done the heavy lifting for the early 13 packet. Back then we had to send all the files to headquarters, and they had a review committee. And so we go out on a raid, and I remember trying to pull my gun, and I couldn't get it out of the holster. And my partner, TFO he was like, he goes, dude, just go sit in the car, man. You're good. Just go. So I go back to the car. I was working out daily, and I did come back, got my strength back. And that's when I said, I want to go overseas. And I said, there's a spot in Guatemala. And there were like 75 people that put in for it. It's so competitive to get overseas, right? And that's where you talk about your rabbi, right? Who's your rabbi? Well, I didn't have a rabbi at that time. I had my boss who's Iraq in the Midwest. He knew some people. Come to find out, he knew a lot more people than I thought he did. A New York guy, right? So he just reached back to some friends. And I think I showed you my shirt, who's your rabbi? And for DEA, who's your rabbi, right? So I'm going to send one to you. So
that's how you get things done.
That's how you get things done. That's the guy who's going to take care of you. It's a big saying in DEA, very well known. I don't know if they say it anymore, but back in the day, it was like, who's your rabbi? So
absolutely.
I didn't really have one, but I did. I just didn't know it. So I get the job in Guatemala. And this was in 2003. So I language school, and then I shipped. And I remember in language school, seeing all these Colombian cops coming up, and they would put them in the same, not GLQ, but like a GLQ living quarters that I was in, TDY. And these guys were missing arms, Colombian police, soldiers, missing legs, burned, getting treatment. And so all the things I'd seen on TV about this overseas stuff with Escobar and all this, but now fast forward, now we're in like 2002, 2003. Now we're going to like Chris Beistel's area, and we had the Cali cartel and so forth. So the remnants of all these guys getting shot and all this stuff, I got to meet one of the generals that later became the number 3 of the PNC. And I remember talking to him. I was like, hey, how do you deal with these terrorists? And I'm a cop, right? And he goes, we don't deal with them. We just have to freaking kill them. We have to kill these guys. We have to kill all of them. And the more we kill, the better. And he just kill. And then I started realizing, when I started seeing these police and stuff, they were TDYing up there to get treatment at some of the military hospitals and so forth. Wow, these guys are really suffering. Yeah. Little did I know at that time that Mexico would kind of turn into that mirror, the danger and the devastation that Colombia went through. Right. So I go down to Guatemala. I show up in the office, and back then the whole office was at the airport waiting for me when I landed. The whole office, wife, kids, everyone. And I walk out, and the boss is with me. He had met me in the plane with the SIU. Well, it wasn't really an SIU, it was contacts at that time. And I come out, and they're like, hey, welcome. And everyone's hugging me and everything. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And the office policy in Guatemala at that time was, when someone comes, everyone goes out, the whole family, everyone, the agents, everyone, and welcome the guys coming into the country.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so my first impression was, wow, that's pretty cool. Then we just started. In comparison,
when Connie and I arrived in Bogota on a Sunday night, the duty agent was supposed to be there. He was late because they were having a party that day, and he showed up a little tipsy, you know. It wasn't a good experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. What year was this?
91.
Yeah. Oh, the old DEA. The old DEA. Yeah. And we started working these cases and, seizures and aircraft with 1.5 tons of coke in it. And the graveyard was what they would fly these planes out of Colombia and they'd fly it to Central America, crash land them on purpose, control crash land them, unload all the dope to the Mexican cartel guys that were waiting, which became the Zeta cartel. And we had all these defectors from the Guatemalan Special Forces, which we were training. The Cayman, which is their equivalent Navy SEALs. And then we had the Caibiles, which are the Special Forces, their equivalent. And they were some bad. Guatemalans are typically short little dudes, but these guys were little badasses. I mean,
they're tough guys.
They're freaking tough, dude. They go out in the jungle for a month and live off the bushes. I mean, these guys were, and here I am training them. I'm like, you know what I mean? We're the gringos, right? Now, there were some things that we could teach them, obviously, the refined mechanisms of law enforcement, some things like that. But when it came to like blood and guts, these guys were really something else. Wow. And at that time, a lot of them were leaving and betraying their country and their loyalty and everything and going to the Zetas. And working for the cartels. Oh, yeah. It became a big deal. Yeah, it was a big deal. And we were doing all the operations for Operation Mayan Jaguar, which they don't have anymore. It's too dangerous now. Really? We can't be flying around in helos taking off narco planes, right? So, but at the time, we were doing land missions. We were doing air missions. We were doing all kinds of stuff, man. We did protective missions. They would have us come out when the senators would come down. Senators and congressmen and stuff, and they'd say, bring the DEA guys out. They know these areas. They know the cops. We'd set perimeters. We'd be out there with the M16s and doing everything with DSS or DOD or whatever. And I was like, this is great. This is the kind of stuff I want to do. TDY in Nicaragua. I'm TDY in El Salvador, Honduras. I'm going to Mexico City. I'm working cases where we have multiple tons of cocaine coming in, informants that are getting paid $1 million. This is what DEA is all about. Yep. And I got to work toward the end of my career, Operation Titan, which was the first time we had Colombian traffickers kind of working with Hezbollah. And that was run by Group 10 in Miami, but I was in Guatemala as the case agent.
My first group was Group 10 Miami.
Was it? Later, I was over Group 9.
When I got there in 87, we had 413s and everybody else was a grade 7 or grade 9 fresh out of the academy.
Really?
Yep. Good times.
Wow. But, so I was working with them and I was working with a guy we'll call Frank. We talk pretty much every day, even to this day. Miami guy. Of course, he went up. He was in SOD for a while and stuff like that till he retired. But he would come in. He was doing the undercover. And for guys that don't understand how the environment is overseas, and they say the overseas guys, and you have some people that it's positive, like overseas guys, they kind of learn everything about the overseas business and how things work, source countries, so forth. And they also work in the United States because I had the opportunity to work in like 7 of DEA's field divisions with 3 overseas tours in different countries, right? So I worked all over the country from LA to Chicago to Miami, St. Louis division, Colombia, Venezuela, Guatemala. I mean, I got to see a whole world of DEA, right? And
that's the cool thing about the job.
That's what I wanted to do, right?
Yep.
But then you have some guys on the job like, he's an overseas guy. They don't do anything but, sip tea and eat crumpets, all day long. Well, maybe if you're in London, you're kind of enjoying some of the benefits of the European lifestyle, right? But not when you're in Colombia, in Bogota or Cartagena, North Coast, or, in the 90s and 2000s. I mean, it's dangerous,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
When I was in Venezuela as well. So we go through this case, we seize $20 million in cash. And I remember Frank, he was doing the undercover. We're at a hotel and he didn't have a gun. And I'm like, dude, you want to take, I call him Whiskers. Whiskers was my 640 Smith on my leg. I always carried Whiskers with me, as well as my other duty gun, right? So I said, dude, take Whiskers. He's like, no, I don't need it. It's not going to fucking help me because these guys had bodyguards out front. There were like 5 or 6 of them, suits and body armor with rifles in the side of there. And so we had stood up an SIU while I was there. I was lucky enough to be part of that, helping stand up the SIU. It was the first one in Central America back in 2005, 2004 or 5, I think.
Can you say what an SIU is?
Yeah, so you have the vetted units. The SIU is a vetted unit of police officers that we select the people. We polygraph them, we drug test them, we background them, we mentor them, and then they're part of our trusted group as much as you can trust someone that's not an American, right? So sensitive investigative unit is what they're called. If they're not run right, you can have a big problem. If you run them right and you're tight with it and you're on top of what's going on, you have a really good commander and a number 2, you'll be okay. But you could really mess things up because you have to keep everything in check because your life's at stake, right? Undercover's lives, all these guys coming down. And so he was in doing the meeting with these 2 Colombian traffickers, and he wanted to pick up some money. He got the contract to launder money for the Colombians that were supplying all kinds of stuff to Hezbollah, right? The terrorists. And I told Frank, I was like, dude, if it breaks bad, you just lay flat on the ground because we're going to come in and we're going to kill everything that's standing. We're just going to flatten everything because they were all traffickers and bodyguards and all this stuff. It's just going to be a mess. And of course, we don't want that. But he's like, no, dude, trust me. I'll be licking the floor if you come in, and we're on edge, man, because these guys are ready. They got AK-47s and small little techs and stuff like that. Luckily, thankfully, everything went well. We did multiple pickups, and we didn't have the availability to bring the money back to the U.S. right away. So I'm putting it – we didn't even have an evidence vault in Guatemala. So we had a computer room that was controlled access because it had like a slide deck classified for the server and all this old equipment, the safes and all that. So I was like, it's alarmed. I'm like, I told the boss, hey man, we got to stack this stuff in here. So by the time we had all these deals and all these surveillances over time, it was like maybe a 5-week, 6-week period. We had like 18 massive suitcases full of cash in this room. And I'm like, so I'm putting evidence stickers on the door lock. Like we had a mechanical door lock because it's classified stuff. Mechanical door lock with the alarm. I'm putting on the zippers of the suitcases. I'm putting evidence stickers on it because I'm like, I can't count it. I can't send it to Brinks. Back then, we actually used to count the money. I can't count this. They were talking like $20 million, 18, 19 suitcases. Yeah, so it's all piled up in this room. And we told the Marines, we're like, guys, stay the hell out of don't go in this room. If you break the seal on that, you're gonna be on the evidence list and potential lists. So I remember the gunny was like, we're not freaking going in there. We don't care we're not freaking going in there. Because the Marines, people don't understand, Marines in an embassy can go anywhere they want.
Yep.
Anywhere. Without permission. They don't have to tell anyone. They just go in. And then when they find a security violation, you get a phone call and a pink slip.
Pink slip.
You get 3, you're out of country, right? Yep. So for them to say we're not going in there, I showed them, like, open the door when we were processing. I said, this is all freaking money and jewelry and all this other stuff. And he's like, no, I don't. No, he gave the order. We're not touching it. You're not going in. And I know some of these kids were like dying, just not to take it, obviously, but they wanted to see it.
Just to see it. Yeah.
They just wanted to see it. So finally, they're ready to take this money down. They had, I don't even know. We did 7, 8 pickups or whatever it was. It was 20 million cash. They come down. They were like, we want to pick up the money. And I'm like, yeah, because I got no more room in the freaking, it's full. It's totally full. And they're laughing. So they bring 2 DEA planes down, and we don't even tell the AMBO. We're like, there's no country clearance. Well, there was, but not really, because we didn't want state to know we're taking out all this money, and then it might kind of blow up a little bit. So we just said we're doing it. So we loaded up in cars. I brought the SIU, and I told the commander of the SIU, I said, you just need to cover these high level DEA agents that are coming to board high level. They're just agents that were just bringing the money. I didn't tell them how much money we had. I didn't say we're even going with money? I said, we just need coverage. So bring the SIU out. And then he sees me with an M16 as I'm driving, slung, and we're at a stoplight, and I bring the M16 up, and I'm looking, and he pulls up next to me. We had all of our cars. We had the SIU, we had the undercovers, we had the money. Everything was loaded, right? We even used HSI. It wasn't called HSI at the time. It was whatever they were called. They gave us 2 armored cars as well, but they didn't come with us. They didn't come with it. It was the caravan of money, right? So when the commander of the SIU saw me, like when I stopped, I brought the rifle up and I'm looking, I didn't have an armored car, and I'm ready to get it on. So you know how it is when you just don't know.
Yep.
You go up, you're going to get it on, right? So he sees me and he looks like, what the hell are we doing?
You get us into
you guys for? Yeah, what the hell? You got bodies in the cars? What are you doing? So when we get there and we start unloading the suitcase, we call them over because it's heavy. We're like, dude, you got to help us. And then he's like, you son of a bitch. Yeah, I can't believe you wouldn't tell me. I said, hey, relax. Now you're aware. We're in a secure, pretty secure area. Get a perimeter set till these planes get off the ground. He's like, okay, yes, sir. Great guys. Super great guys. So planes take off. I got video of it. In fact, we did a Nat Geo special on Titan. And some of the footage they used was mine with the carts coming through the embassies, sacks of luggage, and the aircraft. Yeah. It was a great experience. The first case that Hezbollah was working with Colombian traffickers. One of the first cases.
What year was that?
We did the takedown in 2007.
I was in SOD until 06, and Titan was one of the biggest operations we had going at that time.
Yeah, it was. It was a great case. And I just had one little piece of it in Guatemala, but it was one of the most exciting because that's where all the money culminated when we seized it. And then I stayed behind. I didn't go to Fort Lauderdale, so I didn't get the big money shot standing next to the huge stack of cat. I remember Frank sent me a photo. He was like, Photoshop me in. I was like,
hey, at least he was thinking about you, right?
Yeah. And they ended up calling me, and we had more suitcases that they had stashed. They had provided to us full of Rolex and gold and money, 3 or 4 suits. It was another couple $1 million that I had to go get, and we had to get a team. They had to cover me, go in, because we don't know if it's set up, because they had actually flipped the 2 Colombians and started working them. But that's what I wanted to do with DEA in my first overseas assignment. I got to work one of the biggest cases, a little slice of it, but still, nevertheless.
Well, and that's the thing, everybody, they give Javier and I all the credit for Escobar. That's not a 2-man operation. It's an entire agency. Yeah. As well as other agencies within the federal government and foreign law enforcement. It's always a team thing. It's just typically people just get focused on and I don't know. It's nobody's out there working alone. It's always teamwork. That's what I loved about DEA. And I think that's what you loved about law enforcement, because now you've got mentors to look up to. I kind of refer to us as a gang. Yeah, you got your street gangs out there, MS-13 and whatever you got, but we got a gang too. It's probably bigger than yours. It might take us a little while to get all our people together, but
sure.
It's that brotherhood, sisterhood of law enforcement, which I love.
Yeah.
So that was, and I appreciate you explaining that in depth. That's why I was being quiet, because that's what DEA does. At least that's what we used to do. I hope that DEA still does. And when we go to the academy and we meet these new guys coming on, and you just see that vim and that vigor and their fire in their eyes, that they just want to get out there and kick butt and take names. Man, it's so encouraging. And it's the SAC up there, Mike, is towards the end of our presentation, he'll say, hey, we do a Q&A, and he's like, before we leave, do you guys have any words of advice for these new agents? And I tell him, I'm jealous of you guys, because I know what you're getting ready to go through. I know what you're getting ready to experience. You're going to have the time of your life. Take advantage of DEA, because they're going to work your butts off. If you're not going to do the job, then go ahead and don't take your badge at graduation. Just go ahead and find another job, because this is a lifestyle, and we're a small agency, and that's what it requires if we're going to be successful. So that's not to get on my soapbox there, but man, I love it. I just love it.
Well, that's what Loreno told me too. This isn't a job; it's a lifestyle.
Yep. And Dave was an excellent agent in Miami. He's hilarious. He's one of the funniest people I ever met. We went through language school together. He got to be friends with my wife, and we'd get together with him, and you had tears rolling down your cheeks.
Yeah.
So he's just a funny guy.
Yeah, and he had served in Venezuela, which was one of the reasons why I went to Venezuela later on when I came back from Guatemala. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that's ever met Dave Lorino remembers Dave Lorino, I promise you.
Yeah. I remember his going away. We all went to a Mexican restaurant, and we were all, I won't say we're all drinking, but 20-some years ago, I don't really care at this point, but we had some drinks.
Exactly.
Some drinks were flowing, right? And next thing you know, Dave's in scuba gear in the parking lot, walking around.
He's a nut.
I got pictures of it. I'll try to find some of them and send it to you.
That would be cool.
Privately, but Dave, he probably, if he sees this, he'll probably say, "I got a picture of that. Let me send it myself."
And he's just a natural comedian. It's not something he has to sit around and think about. It just comes out. I love it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wes, thank you for walking us through that. We've been going a little over an hour now. So what I'd like to do, if you're amenable to it, is come back tomorrow and bring you back for part 2, because we're just now getting started on your career, and you've got so much other stuff that I'm interested in, and I know our listeners will be interested in. Thank the good Lord above that you healed from that paralysis, from that unbelievable car wreck. We'll talk about that again, because I want everybody to know what happened after, like Paul Harvey, the rest of the story, because it's pathetic, is what it is. Yeah. But if you're good with it, brother, we'll see you again tomorrow.
100%.
All right, brother. And for all our listeners, thank you guys for joining us again. Thank you for coming back every week. And let me tell you, I'll get goosebumps listening to Wes tell these stories, because I remember some of these cases, and I remember the experiences that he's explaining to you from my time working overseas and just working with DEA and being a cop. Please come back. You're going to enjoy the rest of the story, I promise you. Until then, everybody stay safe. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.